Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we are finally doing another Make Them Great video. We've done some in the past on the likes of Black Panther and the Hulk and Thor. Thankfully, I can say all three of those characters have been upgraded, so we are in a very wonderful time in the game where we can actually expect characters that are bad, characters that are fledgling but have a rich history, a rich background, and a huge following in the comics to actually get their dues eventually. And next up on the list is the Tin Can Man himself, Ultron. I've shit on this guy enough. It's time to make this video and to really detail for you guys why I think he needs help, what he struggles with, and where he should be, because Ultron to me is such an iconic Marvel villain. He's been featured in the movies already, and he's just such a staple of the early parts of this game. Not so anymore, of course, but he deserves to have a much stronger place in the game. So I'm going to detail for you guys what is bad about the character, and then I'm going to detail what's good about the character, and then I'm going to say and give suggestions on what I think. But as of always, of course, on this channel, I am curious what you guys have to say, so start your thinking caps, get those fucking fedoras on, and let's do this, bros. So as far as Ultron goes, as far as how bad he is, the list is pretty long. The staple of Ultron in this game, and the thing that kind of set him apart at the beginning, was his clones. But as you can see here, even at level 6, his clones only have 40% of his stats, which is just horrible. That's a very, very low number. I mean, a lot of other characters, and I put them here on purpose, like for example, Hogan. I don't have his skill here, but even at level 1, the summons start with 75% of their regular character stats. That's way better than 40%, and that's at level 1. Clea, for example, is another character. At level 6, they have 125% of her stats. Now, I understand that Clea only summons 2 clones versus Ultron, who summons like 8 or 9, a lot. But 40% versus 120, that's literally a third, guys. I don't have to be a math wizard to know that Gandalf told Ultron to get the ring from the Smurfs so that, you know, he could become all-powerful again. And we need to make Ultron all-powerful again, and, you know, we need to do a lot, actually, for the character. His passive, for example, reactive, it used to be really good, but burn resist, poison resist, bleed resist really doesn't have a place in the game anymore. If there were more PvP characters that had these types of qualities, this would matter, but it would make it better if he had something like, you know, charm resist, because he's a robot. So then he'd be immune to its, let's say, Enchantress. That's one suggestion that I can give right off the bat that I think would be really crucial to the character, would fit thematically with the character, and would appease the community in a lot of ways. But before we get into any other suggestions for how we can make Ultron great, I want to take him into the Villain Siege mode, and I want to just show you guys why it is in real time that Ultron sucks so bad. Villain Siege is definitely not difficult by any means whatsoever, but I'm just using this as a very low barometer to illustrate my point as best as I can. So Ultron has a lot of problems. We'll start with his summons. It takes a long time for them to come in. That leaves Ultron vulnerable for a long time, and as you can see here, his summons do pitiful damage. I have Ultron at 18 and 17 on his gears. I have great cards, especially for energy damage and all attack, and I have his summons maxed out. As you can see here, they do about 50,000 damage, and that's in about 20 seconds. That's absolutely disgusting. That's so low. There they did even less than 50,000, so it's really, really bad, and that's his signature skill, so that needs to be better, Netmarble. Absolutely, this needs to be better. Even at tier 2, he's an absolute wet noodle. You know, he's dumpster level, if we're going to revive a terribly old meme there. As far as his other skills go, his chest beam is quite cool, and I like that. I would like to see them bump up the damage just a little bit and maybe give it some tracking. I actually need to hurry up, otherwise I'm going to die. Well, there we go, we died. I wanted to show you guys his other skills and the rest of his rotation, but it's basically most of the same. All of his skills are just low damage. They don't have a lot of, you know, pizzazz to them. I mean, they do look good in terms of their animation. The robotic slam has a stun, which is nice, or at least a guard break. The encephalo ray is not bad, and his electronic field is good, but I just don't think it fits thematically with the character enough, and having just one lightning skill really doesn't cut it. I feel like they should just change this to energy. They don't need to make him, you know, a unique snowflake by doing this. It's really in the long run hurting the character, because people might get confused and put, you know, lightning damage obelisks on him, and that's not really going to work that well. The skill is really bad. It roots Ultron and he has to punch the ground. I mean, it looks cool, but it would be nicer if he did something like what Lincoln does, where he touches the ground and then the lightning comes up from far away, so that it would be a ranged skill. In general, Ultron just suffers from the fact that all of his skills are pitiful. His stats are actually not bad. He's got pretty decent defenses as a character overall. He's got pretty high HP. His energy attack is actually not bad. It's a little bit low considering that he has double energy attack on his first gear. At the time when Ultron was first introduced to the game, people thought that he was going to be a top dog because of that. Most other characters, if you're not familiar, do not have double physical or energy attack on their first gear. As you can see here, Hulk has physical attack and attack speed. I think every other character in the game has, you know, their main stat and then a supporting stat. But Ultron is the only character who has double energy attack. It's not a lot, as you can see at level 18 on the gear. It's only about 300, but it was, at least at the time, important. And you can see there he's got double energy defense, which is pretty tanky. So he's got a good gear setup. He's just missing skill cooldown, but that's okay. It's just the fact that all of his skills are so horrible and so low damage, especially for his clones, that it just makes him basically unusable except for novelty. I mean, if someone's telling you that Ultron is a great character in the game right now, they either haven't played the game in like over a year, or they're hanging on to bygone nostalgia. But fuck bygone nostalgia, let's make Ultron great. That's what we're here for, guys. So first off, right off the bat, I think it's very important to make Ultron's clones and make the Ultron minions a more important and a more integral centerpiece part of the character. I know we have a lot of different you know, villains and heroes that already have clones, so I don't just want to give Ultron the cookie cutter upgrade the percentage. I do think that they should upgrade the percentage. They should make that at least 80% of the summoner's stats. That's just to start. So I think they should just buff up the no strings attached. However, I think that they should change one of his other skills, maybe Robotic Slam, for example, maybe Encephalo Ray. Both of these skills are actually quite bad, and despite having very snappy animations, they leave Ultron too vulnerable. He has to go in and into melee range, essentially. So I want Netmarble, and I would hope that they could change one of these attacks and make them into a second summon. We don't have any characters in the game that have multiple summoning skills. The only character that comes close is Clea, because she has the Mystic Bond that triggers as a passive and Mystic Mirage. But I want Ultron to have more than one minion skill or more than one summon skill, but I want them to be different. So whereas Clea's are the same, I want Ultron's to be different. And what I was thinking was, for example, on his third skill, Encephalo Ray, he could have these different summons. Maybe there are fewer of them, maybe 2 or 3. And for example, you could use something like in Diablo, where some of the summons, some of the skeletons can explode when they reach a certain amount of health. So you could do the exact same thing, kind of like, in a way, a suicide summon, where they come out and they do some damage, and then once they reach half health or once they reach a third health, they explode for massive damage. And then you could build that skill that way to be kind of an interesting play. And you could even have it have a drawback, so it's not too powerful, where the summons will deal damage to Ultron. So you wanna summon these explosive clones, and then you wanna back up and attack from range, because when they explode, Ultron can get hurt if he's in the blast radius of the skill. I think that would be fantastic to introduce for Ultron. It would make the character stronger because he would have a legitimate both aggro tool and damage tool for AoE and single target damage with the explosive minions. Ultron also suffers from the fact that he doesn't have any AoE. He doesn't have any way of dealing damage to a lot of minions at once. Electronic Field is the only skill, but it has a very small radius. So having something like an exploding summon would really solve that problem, and you could have it done creatively. It could either deal damage to Ultron or Ultron and his other minions, so you couldn't use them in tandem, but it's just a thought. You could also have a summon kind of like Hogan and the other Brothers 3, where they buff each other. And I did suggest this before. We didn't get it exactly with Hogan and Fandral and Volstagg, but it would be really cool if Ultron summoned like a mini Ultron or like a prototype Ultron that didn't attack but just buffed all of Ultron's minions and buffed Ultron, like maybe, you know, 10% all attack, 20% all defense, or something like that. And then you would be trying to protect that buffable or that buffer clone or that buffer minion, because they're actually helping out your clones and helping out your damage more. And that would be a really interesting dynamic that they could add to the game. I don't think it would cost them a lot as far as like coding and gameplay and stuff like that, and it would look so cool having like all these different robots, all this recycling, you know, running around on the field at the same time. I just want to see more robots, guys. I basically want this to be a Transformers game at the same time. I mean, we already got the Super Saiyans and the Power Rangers with Yellow Jackets uniforms, so we're almost there, guys, as far as cramming as many 90s obsessive kids show themes as possible. Another example or another idea that I had to make Ultron better is similar to the revive skill that we have with characters like Corvus and Groot. And what I wanted Ultron to do is basically when he reaches 10% health or 20% health or very low health, he dies, but then he resummons as like a better version of himself. And that's a really integral part of the Ultron like lore and the Ultron like what makes him so scary and so you know, dangerous, because he always comes back stronger. He always finds a way to rebuild himself, to remake himself, and to fix the problems that he had before. So he could start off the game, for example, with maybe like -5 to all of his stats, and then when he dies, he comes back with +10. So now he's at a +5 advantage, and they could even do it again. I mean, we don't want to do it too many times because it's going to get silly, and it's going to add a lot of animation time and drag on certain fights, but it would be really cool. Another thing that I want them to do for Ultron that I think fits the character thematically is give him a flat damage reduction. Ultron is supposed to be extremely hard to kill and extremely tanky, and they should further this by probably changing his 4-star passive to being something similar to Odin's. Maybe not as powerful, because Odin is the bearded Zeus, as we all know, but maybe like all damage received reduced by 20%. That fits with some other characters' uniforms, and I feel like it would really fit thematically with Ultron. The last idea that I had would be to give Ultron, similar to Clea, to give him kind of like summons on a proc. So maybe 45% chance when hit, not when attacking, but when hit, he summons an Ultron minion, you know, for like 10 seconds. And that could just keep the Ultron minions cranking out, and it would fit especially well with the fact that if they do go the route of the revival, that you could intentionally take hits with Ultron. Not that that's the greatest idea, but still, you could intentionally take hits to build up this massive robot army, and then summon your buffable robot that buffs all of your minions, and then just run down the world boss or whoever you're fighting. I'm really just trying to make Ultron, in the back of my mind, into the Necromancer from Diablo 2 days, with as many summons and as many buffs for those summons as possible. I know we're probably not going to get all of those, but, you know, a boy can dream, right, guys? So those are my ideas for Ultron. This is how I think the character needs to be buffed. It's all in the skills, guys. This is the most important part. Don't even get me started on his tier 2 passive. Of course that needs to be buffed, but that goes without saying. The skills are really what it takes, and I think they should go with a more creative route for Ultron. If they give him something like damage immunity, if they give him something like invincibility, it's just going to feel hacky and lame, and it's just not going to fit the character. So I really hope that they go the route of summons, and they keep the thematic feel of the character real and authentic and true to the comics. All right, Marvel, if you're listening, make this true to the comics, and you too, Netmarble, I guess. So guys, let me know in the comments, let me know what you think of the Make Ultron Great ideas. If you have some great ideas, of course, I'm always excited to listen to them and comment and talk to you guys about it, start the conversation. And of course, guys, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.